When the world sleeps, a few of us stay awake, alone under fluorescent lights, surrounded by silence that feels too alive. Some say the night shift changes you. Others never came back to tell their stories. These are 4 true night shift horror stories that will keep you awake tonight. Story 1. The Security Camera. Alex was 26, a quiet guy who preferred working alone. The night shift at the warehouse paid well. No people, no noise, just him and the hum of aging machinery. The building was enormous. 6 long corridors, dozens of cameras, and a basement storage area that hadn't been opened in years. Most nights were uneventful. He'd sip bad coffee, do his hourly patrol, then sit in the security office watching grainy black and white monitors. The only movement came from the occasional rat or flicker of a dying bulb. But one night, something appeared on camera 6. At first, he thought it was dust or static, but as he leaned closer, he saw it clearly. A woman standing at the far end of a hallway. Her back was turned to the camera. She wore a white gown, and her bare feet were visible on the concrete floor. The timestamp read 2:33 a.m. He blinked. When he looked again, she was gone. Alex rewound the feed, but the recording jumped forward. Suddenly, the timestamp showed 3:10 a.m., nearly 40 minutes into the future. On screen, the same woman now stood closer to the camera. Her head was slightly tilted, as if she was listening. He tried to radio his coworker, but the line hissed with static. The building's lights dimmed, and then the monitors all cut to black. When power returned, only camera 6 worked. The hallway was empty again, except for something on the ground, a dark object in the middle of the floor. Alex grabbed his flashlight and keys, his hands trembling. Every echo in the hall felt amplified. As he neared camera 6's corridor, the air turned cold, heavy, almost thick. His flashlight flickered as if reacting to invisible movement. Then he saw it, his logbook lying open on the floor. He picked it up and froze. Scrawled across the page for 3:10 a.m. were the words, "I see you." The ink was still wet. The next morning, Alex turned in his badge. That night, another guard took his shift. He lasted 1 night. He was found in the security office, staring blankly at the monitor. Camera 6 looping over and over and whispering, "She's closer tonight." Story 2. The Gas Station Stranger. Melissa had been working at the highway gas station for 6 months. It was small, just 2 pumps, a counter, and an endless stretch of forest behind it. Night shifts were boring, but she liked the quiet. That Friday started like any other. The rain came early, steady and cold, turning the road into a mirror. Around 1:45 a.m., she heard the familiar crunch of tires pulling up to pump 3. Through the rain-streaked window, she saw an old blue pickup truck. The headlights stayed on, engine running, but the driver didn't move. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. Then the security monitor behind her flickered. Pump 3's camera showed the truck door wide open. Empty. Melissa leaned forward. "What the hell?" she muttered. When she looked back toward the window, the truck was gone. Completely. Her heart raced. She turned toward the back door and saw muddy footprints leading from the wet floor mats to the employee hallway. Bare footprints. She grabbed her phone. No signal. The landline dead. She hid behind the counter, shaking, listening. Rain tapping on the windows. Then silence. Too much silence. When she finally peeked up, her breath caught. A man was standing outside the glass door, staring directly at her. He was drenched, water dripping from his jacket, but his face was calm, almost smiling. Melissa backed away slowly, heart slamming in her chest. He raised his hand, pressed it to the glass. Then the power went out. Everything went black, except for the faint reflection of his handprint illuminated by lightning. When police arrived an hour later, there was no truck, no footprints, nothing but that one wet handprint. And on the counter, a crumpled gas receipt dated exactly 1 year ago to the minute. The man's name on it. A driver who'd crashed and died near Pump 3 on that same night, 12 months earlier. Story 3. The hospital elevator. Hospitals never truly sleep. Machines hum, lights flicker, and footsteps echo where there should be silence. John had worked as a paramedic for years, but nights in the ER always unsettled him. The quiet wasn't comforting. It was loaded, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. That night, his shift ended around 3 a.m. He was exhausted and took the elevator down to the parking garage. As the doors opened, he saw her, a woman in a patient gown standing in the corner of the elevator, her head bowed. "Ma'am, you lost?" he asked. No reply. The doors closed. The elevator began to descend, then jerked violently. The lights dimmed to a faint orange hue, the air growing colder. John pressed the emergency stop, but the button didn't respond. Then, breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing. But it wasn't coming from the woman. It was coming from behind him. He spun around. Nothing but mirrored walls reflecting his pale, terrified face. When he looked back, the woman had moved closer, her face still hidden by her hair. "Listen," he stammered, "I can help you." The lights cut out. Total black. Then, a whisper. "You were there." The elevator lurched, lights flickered back on, and she was gone. John stumbled out when the doors opened. He ran to the security office and demanded to see the camera footage. The guard hesitated but complied. The video showed John stepping into the elevator, alone. Then the guard leaned forward, squinting. "Wait, what's that?" he whispered. For 2 seconds, a second face appeared behind John's reflection. Not a woman, but a pale male figure with hollow eyes staring straight at the lens. The timestamp on the footage, 3:03 a.m., the exact minute of a fatal elevator collapse that had killed 2 people in that same hospital 15 years earlier. Story 4. The 24-hour diner. Lena's diner sat alone off a forgotten highway, the kind of place that survived on truckers, travelers, and insomniacs. On most nights, it was dead quiet, the buzz of neon the only sound. That night, rain blurred the windows and thunder shook the roof. At 3:05 a.m., the bell above the door jingled. A tall man stepped in, wearing a dark trench coat soaked through with rain. His skin was pale, almost gray. "Coffee," he said softly, sitting at the counter. Lena poured a cup, glancing at his hands, covered in dirt, fingernails cracked, grime embedded deep. "You from around here?" she asked, forcing a smile. The man looked up slowly, eyes hollow, voice rasping. "Not anymore." The clock ticked loudly in the silence that followed. When she turned to grab the sugar, she heard the cup slide across the counter. But when she looked back, he was gone. The door hadn't opened. No footsteps, no sound. Just the cup of coffee, now filled with muddy water. She ran to the phone. Deadline. She turned toward the window and froze. Outside, the man stood in the rain, staring through the glass. His trench coat dripped, but beneath it, his shirt was torn, and dark soil clung to his skin. Lightning flashed, and for a split second she saw behind him a shallow grave, half collapsed, rain filling it slowly. When police arrived that morning, they found footprints leading from the woods to the diner and stopping right at the window. The soil samples taken from the prints matched those from a grave exhumed behind the diner years earlier. A body that was never identified. And the clock above the counter, it stopped at 3:05 a.m. that night and never ticked again. The night shift is quiet for a reason. The rest of the world sleeps, and maybe that's how it's meant to be. Because when you're the only one awake, you're not always alone.